Welcome to the Minding Your Business podcast. I'm CJ Jolliffe with
Aaron Gerald's again.
On? Yeah, hey, we made it.
Man, okay, so take a look. This is the new office.
I just noticed.
It is absolutely not organized or decorated yet, but I did get all the technical stuff set up. So this is the new virtual office where I pretty much do my streaming for my virtual sessions.
Okay.
Or at least that's the hope. I did do my virtual sessions this week from this office, but I didn't have all the lights and the nifty microphone. I was doing it from my laptop. It looked felt really hokey. So I'm looking forward to next week when it looks better. I just couldn't squeeze this part into my other office.
Sure.
So because this is sort of like a little closet, little storage room, it's got a little counter and stuff. It's a break room and then the virtual meeting room, I suppose.
Yeah.
But eventually I'll probably repaint or do something. I don't know yet. I wanted to live in it for a minute, for a couple of weeks and a month, and maybe even until spring, because it's super cold. The winter is nasty right now.
Speaking of, how's it been in Omaha?
It's been about 7 degrees every day, but feels much colder because of the wind chill.
Right.
Fortunately, this year I put in a recirculating heat pump on my hot water heater that runs through my kitchen. So I haven't had any pipes freezing this year. Last year, anytime it would get into the negatives, the cold water line would freeze, not enough to break or whatever, but just enough to clog. So it would just nothing. And so I'd have to turn the hot water on, and then because of the remodel we did, the hot water and the cold water line run along each other, and they're wrapped in the same insulation, knowing that could potentially be a problem. Right. And so the warm water would then warm up the line, thaw it, and it would work. So this year I got it hooked up with the recirculating pump. So during the night when nobody's using it, and it would just sit still for hours and hours and hours, now once every hour for 4 or 5 minutes, just long enough for hot water to flow, it flows the hot water through the little valve back through the cold water back into the hot water tank. So it's not wasting water,
right?
But it runs warm water through the system, warms everything up, and then I don't have to worry about it.
That's super cool. We haven't been that cold. We've been, highs of 11. We had one of those. But we haven't
highs of 11.
Yeah, we haven't actually gone down into the negative. Like, we've stayed just kind of right in there. Like, night's not getting any colder, just kind of staying the same. But how about snow? You got a bunch coming. I imagine you're getting in that thing. The storm that's coming.
Okay, we had that big huge storm that was supposed to blow through. It was supposed to give us like 4 or 5 inches.
The one that hit Kansas City and turned it into an ice rink.
Yes, and the one that hit Kansas City gave it. Well, so on the news it was saying like Kansas City's going to get like 12 inches, and then Lincoln will get like 7 inches, and then Omaha's going to get like 3 or 4 inches. And the Omaha Dome prevailed again. We got nothing. We got a light dusting. Wow. It was windy, and then that was it.
That's about what we got too. I mean, I don't know that you could even call it an inch. But we're supposed to get 8 to 10 tomorrow, like in the next 36 hours. So we have supplies.
Oh man, I'll have to look and see. I don't know that we have one coming. We may have a storm coming. Who knows?
At this point, it's kind of like, it's just winter, Yeah. So for anyone that's not in the Midwest and doesn't have to pay attention to the winter, winter weather, this is what happens. You gotta have to start every conversation out with, a weather update. So
yes. Oh my God. So this is another steep one. I'll just touch on this and we'll move on. Because it's been so cold, it's getting into the negatives. The wind blows and whips through my house. It's an older house, as it turns out, the heater was kind of doing something funny. So I'm like, you know what? Let's get it checked out. I typically will service it myself and clean the coils and everything. But we have a section of coils inside the internal coils. There's no access to it, which I guess is a problem, major problem. And when we moved in, I knew it was a little bit of a problem. So I came in, I had the ducts cleaned, and he's like, I can't access this. You're definitely going to want to create an access panel, get in there and do it, because imagine it's probably pretty bad considering how dirty everything else was. And I'm like, okay, fine. Well, when I first moved in, they had cats and they had and there was no filter, which means everything blowing right in onto the coils. So thought that's bad. Well, I didn't understand exactly how bad, but apparently it's just about solid with fur and lint and whatever. And so it's been causing condensation into the thing. And now the condensation's gotten into the heat coils and rusted those out. And so we looked and I thought, it's a fairly new unit. Well, the furnace is new. It's like 6 years old, 8 years old.
Okay.
The air conditioner portion, however, that's attached to is like 22 years old. Oof. And last leg. And they're like, if we start messing with stuff, things are going to just start exponentially breaking. Right. It's probably time to just, by the time you replace the heater coil and everything, you're up at like 8,500. For 13, you can replace both complete systems and be done. Yeah. So it looks like we have a $13,000, 13 to 15. We've been getting a few estimates and so forth, going through Costco, going through Home Depot, like getting the extra additional discounts that the big companies force on the small companies. But I don't know. So we'll see. So we may end up having to do that. But my wife's like, it's not completely broke. It works, but it has a high limit something. So it cycles on, cycles off, cycles on, cycles off, cycles on, gets too hot because also whoever put it in only put in a single wall thing, which then overheats and then the airflow slows down. It's problems. And I'm like, we could live with it for another 3, maybe 2, maybe 3, 5, maybe 5 years, and then have to replace it at that point. We're only planning on being in this house 8 to 10 years anyway. I'd rather stay in the house 10 years with a brand new system than to replace it right before I move.
Right.
I don't want to do that. Exactly. So we're kind of deciding like, maybe this makes sense. Let's go ahead and do it. We've been talking to the neighbors because of course we don't know. They used to be able to replace a forced air and heat for, $3,000.
Right. Right.
Not now.
Oh,
not here.
Times have changed. Yeah.
Yeah, not here. So here it's over 10. Like we haven't been able to find it under 13,000. And you know what's crazy is, I guess in 2025, new legislation just got signed over, all of the coolant switching to another new one. So it used to be the R22 and then it was the R blah, whatever it is. That's going away as of January this year.
Wow.
And it's another new thing on top of that. So.
Well, aren't you glad you didn't replace it last year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man. Yeah, that's no fun. Oh, that is no fun.
Anyway, that's where I'm at.
Would you wait until like the spring to replace it?
I don't know.
Do you how quickly can they replace it? Is it a day? Is it 2 days?
Oh, it's in one day. Like, it is amazing. Every company I've called, because they're fairly big companies and the people been there for 20, 25 years, the technicians that came in and they're like, no, we come in, we send a crew, we disassemble, we do all these drawing. We have a machine shop that fabricates all the new plenums and everything that we need. We come out, we put it all on the curb. They drop off the new ones. We take them down. We set it all up, put it together, come haul off the old one. Like, it's all done, if not in one day, in a day and a half. But because he doesn't want to say for sure guaranteed in a day, but he's like, we install like 10 of these a day, every day, and we get them done in a day. But just in case something's weird about your house, which tends to be the case with me and the places I end up in, that they go, no, should be no problem. Ooh, this is a rare thing. This is different. Your house is different. I always end up there.
I mean,
so,
and that's where, I mean, I've talked about this. I grew up in construction. Like, I actually thought I was going to be a home builder. That was what my plan was until the family business basically said, like, hey, your generation gets to go off and be doctors and lawyers. And I was like, oh, so I should have taken school a little more seriously. Oh, okay. But I know exactly, and like, even with best intentions and all the planning in the world, stuff still happens. So, yeah, I mean, not with my family stuff, because they were, Perfect.
Yeah, they were perfect. No, but I just figured probably 2 days, big deal. We wear sweatshirts and blankets, extra blankets at night. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it isn't a big deal.
Space heaters go a long way.
But yeah.
We've been,
and right now we're having to do that because our house will not get above like 67 because it keeps cycling.
Would you over 67 anyway? That sounds terrible.
That's the air.
I know.
The floor and the counters and the everything else inside the house is a cool 30. Like you can't leave anything out. It seems like it's going to freeze. It is cold. We have to wear a sweatshirt. You have to wear like slippers and socks. Like I don't care for that.
Look, I got a fleece on right now, but that's because I'm cold blooded. I mean, in the summer, I'm still dressed warm inside because my family freezes me out. I live with two very hot blooded people, and they're always hot. They're always sweating, and it just. Ugh. Now I will say this: the gym in the garage has been a little chilly the last few weeks, but especially today was the coldest. It was 31.9 in the garage. Okay. And so,
I
go out about 30 minutes ahead of time. I'll turn on my space heater in the area I'm going to be. And then,
hopefully warm up the bench and the stuff so you don't count it.
Because it's not even being out in the air. Like once, a few minutes of being uncomfortable, but then, you start to sweat anyway. Right. But it's the if you don't have gloves, or if you don't have
everything
rubber handles, it's like holding ice.
So that's no fun.
Yeah, I'm not touching the barbell for a few weeks until things warm up. I'm gonna stick with dumbbells that have the
rubber handles.
We're obviously not as cold as you guys are. For people that don't know, Kansas City's probably like the midway point between us, right? We're both about a couple hours from Kansas City.
Yeah, it's like a little over 3 hours from here, and I think it's 3-4 hours from you, right?
I think it's 2.5.
Okay.
It all depends on how you drive.
But depends on the weather and how fast you do.
It depends on the weather. But yeah, that we missed all of that bad weather. But I'm looking forward to we're prepped, we're prepared. We have food, we have water. We're gonna hunker down and just kind of enjoy the winter. I couldn't do it for a long time,
Right.
But
no,
it's kind of the one thing I am going to do is, so my son, he's getting his license. And so I'm like, if we get good snow, we're going to go out and we're going to drive. We're going to go find a parking lot, and you're going to learn what it feels like to not be able to stop. You're going to learn what it feels like to not be able to go, to not be able to turn, all the things.
Right.
We have found that my wife does a better job with my wife, just the fundamentals and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I tend to elevate his
blood pressure.
Anxiety. Yeah. A little bit. And even though I'm doing my best to stay really calm, and not, be chill and stuff. But, it's working out better now that Darcy is doing stuff with him. Once he graduates the fundamentals, he's going to come over to me and we're going to learn some advanced techniques. I'm a big fan of, and this is with everything, right? I'm a big fan of knowing your limits, but you can't know your limits unless you test them.
You got to hit them to know I can't do past this. I can't go faster than that. A turn, I can't go 35. It's got to be 20 instead of
Yeah. So,
but you don't know that until you try and take it a little too fast. Yeah.
And I learned all those things on my own when I was 16. I would prefer him to learn them with me.
Sure.
Because apparently I'm a helicopter parent. But anyway, so new year, man. It's a new year. I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
Do you have any New Year's resolutions, and have you broken them yet?
Oh, well then I have one answer for you. Yes. Just yes. Yes, I have some, and yes, I've broken them.
Okay.
Because I think typically speaking, New Year's resolutions is you go, this year I wish. Right. It's not really a resolution. Yeah. When you actually resolve to do something, then it's different. You create an emotional reason in order to. So, yes, I have some long-term, year-long goals. I plan to get in a little bit better shape, number 1. Number 2, my goal this year, and I always try to not do negative. Oh, don't be upset, right? Be happier. So I'm trying to find a way to word this, is I want to be injury free this year. Did I tell you Christmas morning? Christmas morning, kids come down, we open stockings, they're all excited, they're pulling the candy and the stuff out of the stockings. I go, hang on, let me run in the kitchen. I'm going to grab some brown paper bags. You guys can stuff all the candy in there. I run into the kitchen, I round the curve, not thinking that we just brought back in additional bar stools.
Okay.
Because it's Christmas, we're going to be making pot stickers and doing the whole thing around the island. And I click the bar stool, and it's the big heavy ones. And so I broke my little toe.
Oh.
Yeah. And broke it.
Oh, man. So
my foot swole up. And so I spent the last 2 weeks doing all of the remodel, all of the office remodel, doing the kitchen tile, doing all of that with a broken toe.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And so it was taped for a few days, and then the tape started becoming bothersome. So then now I just gently get it in my shoe and then take it easy. It appears that I can now move it. I was moving it and it was doing that, and it was just sticking out, being this little swollen, but now it's moving and I can move it. It's painful, but not like excruciatingly so. It's just like, oh, I can tell there's something wrong still. I need to keep waiting. So I've had to take off a couple of weeks from Hapkido. So I haven't been able to practice that. I still been doing stretching and so forth at the house, but it's not the same.
Right.
So that's a little bit disheartening. But so this year I'm hoping to be injury free. Last year I realized I experienced several things. I had a bad knee, a bum knee for a while. I did the shoulder thing. I had that when I was doing the rolls and my arm was all jacked up a couple of times, and then a broken toe. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go this year, 2025. Injury free. Let's be a little bit more focused on what I'm doing, where I'm going.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we'll see.
Well,
I want to be,
but
I want to be a little healthier. I want to be a little healthier this year. I don't necessarily want to lose weight, but I just want to feel better and be a little healthier. So I'm going to try and eat a little more responsibly.
That sounds about right.
Which basically means stop eating when I'm full. Because I, for whatever reason, still suffer from, I'm going to call it childhood trauma of being told, eat everything on your plate. And so you're taking deep breaths to get it down kind of thing.
Hang on, the second wind's coming. I got it.
I'm done doing that. So now I eat, and when I'm full, I'm like, I'm done. I'm full.
Yeah.
And then I'm just stopping. And already I feel better. I'm a belt loop tighter.
Nice.
Whatever that means. It's better. But again, I'm not stepping on the scale. I don't care.
Sure.
I don't want to lose weight, gain weight, nothing. I just want to feel better, be in better shape. I'd love to be able to jump a little higher. So I think my son and I this year are going to be working on calves, like jumping, like building up our calves so we can spring up in the air a little bit better. He's outstanding. He's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because he's 8, so he's just a bounding little thing. And when he jumps, he doesn't know how to jump high yet. So he's doing these flying kicks and these flying things. And Master McClendon, the black belt, he's like the instructor. He's like, leap higher, and then you can get your lower leg up, and then you can clear things and still do the kick. And so he's learning to like jump over the pads and do it, but his lower leg still kind of hitting him and he's like, you got to get higher, spring higher. He's like, buy the kid a jump rope. I'm like, okay, so we're going to start practicing calf exercises and doing stuff to get a little springier, I guess. And so anyway, that's what I've got going this year. Every year my thing, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to be more successful. I don't care. Every year it's the same thing. Every year I just make it, And so cool. If I can make it again next year, outstanding. And if I can enjoy it this year, instead of trying to chase a dollar, then more fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
so how about you?
Pretty similar. I mean, not injuring myself would be great. I understand that. I've got big feet, and so I nearly break a toe off, every few months. Oh, it's brutal. And I will never ever learn where my feet actually are. Like apparently I walk with my feet out a little bit, like I don't know, bow-legged or something. But I wear size 14, and so those toes just grab anything that's near me. I mean, it can be 6 feet away and I can stub my toe. So, I did one a couple months ago where it was, I was like, I think I broke it, but it took about a day to stop hurting. But so that's why I was laughing. I am probably insensitive. Yeah. But, like I think last year is when I kind of started, like, it's been a couple years, but last year for sure, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a little more diligent about how I eat. Cause I know the abs are made in the kitchen. I'm not trying to necessarily, I mean, I want to lose some fat, but I've actually, so I've gotten my eating pretty dialed in. I know what I can eat, what I can't eat.
Okay.
It's on a balance of being like really lean and high quality, like proteins or like grass fed things or organic, whatever.
Sure.
I don't like ingredients, like extra ingredients, and I don't like pesticides and that kind of stuff as much as I can. It's a balance of that with affordability, right? So there's a balance. But I've actually, I guess it's been about a year and a half since I've been lifting weights again. And I just kind of like, stayed the same as far as strength and stuff goes until the last 6 months. And I've put on 7 pounds in the last 6 months while eating clean and, outside of like Christmas week. I did not eat clean then, but my strength has gone up and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like seems counterproductive. I've put weight on but it's muscle. Or what
if your clothes aren't feeling all tight or where they shouldn't.
Yeah, and that's the thing is my clothes are looser, but I'm gaining weight. So this year is probably more of like, okay, that's great and all, but we used to call this in the fitness industry the perma bulker, where it's like, okay, I could lean out a bit, but what's great about muscle is muscle burns more calories than fat. So I'm now in a better position. My body requires more food
to burn the fat. Right.
Exactly. Right. So, but I don't, I'm not saying I don't want abs. I'm not trying to, get in the shape that I was in my 20s,
Right.
I'm just trying to be healthy. Right. For me, this is like the way I exercise and that kind of stuff. It's about strength, but it's also about heart health. I want to do some low intensity stuff, some high intensity stuff. And, like being sick I'm still a little sick. It's been almost 2 weeks, but last week I didn't work out. I didn't do any like cardio cause I just couldn't. I didn't have the lung capacity. I still lifted a little bit because I'm like, I got to do something,
Right.
But anyway, that's kind of like my goal for this year is just continue down that path. What I'm doing this month, it's just this month is, and I think I made this up, but it's no dairy January. So that's a tough thing for me because I can like cut out a lot of things, but like I was looking at like, if I have salad, I put feta cheese on it, like if I make an omelet, it's got some kind of cheese on it or, and like all these things, no cottage cheese, like all these things. And that's not even like, I mean, ice even cream. Whey protein. I drink a lot of, probably 50 grams a day of whey protein. I don't know that I'm cutting that out. I haven't yet. But here's my goal. This sickness has been a sinus and mucus thing. And last week we didn't meet because I couldn't talk. I lost my voice for about half a day. My wife lost it for 3 days, just nasty.
Right.
And I don't ever get sick except for something sinus related. But even when I'm healthy, I don't have allergies, but even when I'm healthy, I don't have like both wide open sinuses, like I'm always working with about half to one sinus,
Right.
And so, I know now that dairy creates extra mucus. In your body. And so I'm now trying to see if I can remedy that by changing what I take into my, in my diet. So we'll see. I'll let you know in February if I'm any better.
Okay.
If I am, then I'm like, hey, I'm going to stay down that path because I just want to breathe.
Yeah. If you're all of a sudden can breathe all clearly,
yeah,
it's worth it to not eat cheese.
Right. Like if anyone is sick of listening to me pronounce my T's with D's, like community, I can't say community without really, really trying because I can't breathe because my nose is, anyway. So that's where I'm at. And then it's like we're in that season of planning, right? So,
right.
Going through for roast of the week, later today after we hop off this, we're going to be planning out our marketing calendar for the rest of the year. So first thing we have to do is we already have a special in mind what we're going to be doing for January.
Right.
But have I talked about niche at all on here?
Not in a while.
I can't remember. So for that, we have some great landing pages, and we've just launched a new, industry we're serving. And we have another one coming. But what we need to work on is our relationship building portion. So closing a deal is not difficult. Getting leads isn't necessarily difficult. It's the gap between someone that may be interested or maybe a lead, getting them to get to the point where they'll hop on a call, and we can go through and see what their needs are and all that stuff. Once we get someone on a call, and this goes, I would say for any of the businesses, I'm not saying I'm a closer, but that's where I excel. I excel in interpersonal communication, not in texting, not in email. There's a reason like this works for me because I'm looking you in the eye. Without body language and sarcasm, I don't function very well. But but trying to get them basically
to the place
how to
where
nurture those leads. Right. So we're working on a plan to like, okay, here's what we can do to nurture those leads, to move them down the educational spectrum. Like if A is like, they don't even know about a product, and Z is they've bought the product. We have to educate them, so how can we educate them? What are the different mediums we can use? And we have some ideas, but it's just, now it's about fleshing it out. And I kind of said this a few, maybe 2 episodes ago when we were talking about roast of the week. And it's like, yeah, we had all these views, but we didn't have any sales.
Right.
Because we have earned the right to ask for a buy, to ask them to buy something from us. Right. And so it's the same thing on the website side of things or anything else, the consulting or whatever. It's okay. You are aware we're in your periphery now. Right. So how do we get from you're aware of us to you are ready to buy from us? And so that's really what the next week, 2-3 weeks are going to be planning, just kind of planning out the rest of the year. I think that's the big one. One thing I did want to say, just because it's, New Year and everyone's setting, I'm not a big New Year's resolution person, because kind of like the same thing, it's like, am I serious about this? And I don't want to wait for the new year to set a new, set a goal or whatever. I just start, just get it done. But, for anyone that's out, that's like finds themselves in that place where it's like, okay, I'm right in the thick of my New Year's resolution. I've got about 10 more days before I fizzle out, But on average, a book by James Clear, I think I've talked about it before, Atomic Habits, is such a great book that really helps with, regardless if it's the beginning of the year or what, if you want to change your habits. It is not a very long book. It's on audiobook. Man, it's a great thing to listen to read. I absolutely love it. That's where my morning routine comes from. And he talks about like, it's very, very approachable. For me, I just really like latched onto it and it made a lot of sense. And, but yeah, anyway, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. For anyone, but yeah, it's well worth any time you put into it. I would say, I think the audiobook's less than 4 hours. It's like 3.5. I could be wrong about that, but I went through it very quickly. So for those of you that don't know, I mostly consume things through audio.
Right. But you still call it reading.
I still call it reading, but I actually have
actual reading glasses.
I have reading glasses now. And so I've in the last 3 weeks, I think I've read 3 books. physical.
Oh
physical
my
books.
God. Okay. I was getting excited because I actually am working on instilling a few new habits. I don't call them resolutions, but habits. And one of them is drinking more water.
Okay.
So I'm doing my ever-loving best to drink more water. And I have noticed that my migraine headaches are going away, as it turns out, or at least it appears that most of what I believed was migraine headaches for the last 35 years, 40 years, were actually dehydration headaches.
Dehydration, yeah.
And I mean, I've been on every medication, every pill, every technique, all of it. And this is the thing that seems to be helping the most.
That's awesome.
And in that, and I like to habit stack, right? I like to stack my habits. So by adding the habit of drinking more water at bedtime, at least, I have a big giant glass that I have to finish before I go to bed. Well, if it just sits on the table, I'm going to forget it. It sits on my little nightstand. I forget it. I go to sleep and I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot to drink it tonight. So I put it on the nightstand, and rather than us just watch, 4 or 5 episodes of whatever show we're watching at the time, I told my wife, hey, listen, I know you like to read, and it's me telling you not to read so we can just watch TV to fall asleep. Why don't we, for the first 30 minutes, read?
Yeah.
And then while I'm reading, I am not a fan of reading, but the books that I've been looking at are interesting enough to keep my interest. But now what I do is each time I finish a page, I'll grab a sip, and each time I finish a chapter, I take a few guzzles.
Nice.
And so, or even a section, I'll go, a couple of good slugs of water.
Yeah.
And it's been paying off. I get that glass down in that 30 minutes, which would normally be unbearable. I tell you, I drink 3 swallows of water and I'm like, I'm drowning and I can't, I'm bloated. I can't do it. Like, I do not enjoy drinking water at all. I was afraid, like, I just have long-term rabies because I'm just paranoid of drinking water. I don't like it. Like, my body just wants to,
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, I asked the doctor and they were like, no, it's sort of a generational thing. Actually, when I went in this last time I went to the doctor and talked to him, and she's telling me like, do you know, like, you're in your 50s, right? I go, yeah, I'm 50 now. I'll be 51. My birthday's coming up. And she's like, okay. She's like, I'm 52. She's like, we were raised, you didn't drink water. You didn't carry around bottles of water. Right. We didn't do that. If you got really desperately thirsty, you would find a drinking fountain and you knew to only take a sip just to get your mouth wet because it tasted nasty. And I was like, yes. Oh my God. Well, you just avoided drinking. Like you would. Yeah. And so she's like, so it's about training your body to be thirsty, or at least recognize the symptoms of thirst as such. Because I don't. I'm like, I got a dry mouth, but I'm like, no, I'm thirsty. And I need to take that as a signal to drink.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm trying to learn that and I can't. So I've been having to stack the habit of drinking water with other habits that I'm doing already or that I'm trying to instill.
So a little.
So I'm going to try reading more and drinking more.
So if you want to measure, if like you have a goal, like you're wanting to get through, I don't know, let's say 96 ounces of water, that's 3/4 of a gallon in a day. Back when I was in like the supplement industry, we used to call them water jug warriors because they would be the people that like at the shows or at the gyms that were carrying around their water with them.
Right.
And sometimes it would have BCAAs in them or whatever. But if you put marks on there and you put like, 10 a.m., like noon, 2, 4, like every couple hours, then you kind of know where you should be.
Oh,
an old like a trainer friend of mine like taught me that, and I was like, oh man, that's really smart, because what would happen with me is I'd get to the end of the day, I'm like, oh man, I got to drink like half a gallon of water.
Yes.
I don't think it works like that. You really shouldn't do that, but but yeah. Well,
okay.
I mean, it sounds like we have similar habits we're trying to adopt.
Yeah.
I will say, like with everything, I'm going to be really transparent, moving forward, and anything we come up with, I'll share here on the podcast because that's what this is about, right? Is us all kind of growing together. And I have been the worst about just taking what I know and applying it to my own businesses. It's kind of like the mechanic their car's, always got broken down or it's got a tick, It's
right.
Like, yeah, no, I know how to fix it. I'm busy working on other people's things.
Right. When I get the 3 hours to do, I will. But until then, no.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, a lot of it is going to be just speculation and trial and error. But hey, I think it'll be educational, maybe entertaining. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. No. Two. I'm looking forward to the ads running ads. And again, I know that we've kind of talked before about running an ad campaign. We kind of have one going in the background right now for me.
Yep.
And I've been watching it. It tickers around. It's not performing like it should. It needs a little bit more tweaking. I know we've been busy and the holidays don't make sense because the customers that we would be targeting aren't actually in the market at that moment.
Right.
But I am looking forward to doing something with that. And I've been talking to someone. I won't get too into it, but I've been talking to someone about the idea for Austerity Health and the thing about making it into the wellness center. And we've talked about this a bunch of times and making it a group and then bringing in partners and doing a whole thing, and really got me thinking and putting that together. And it's somebody in real estate about maybe there's a couple of buildings that could use and have some tax grants incentives, and some different things, incentives tied to them. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't have the money to, and he's like, why don't you get creative? Like all of the partners, why don't you make them profit sharing, bring in each of the partners and doing them? I'm like, we could. And if we only all brought in a small amount, it becomes the big amount that we need for the down payment to do the thing, to get the whole thing kicked off. So anyway, I will we'll touch on that and kind of go through it. I'm thinking this is probably just from the preliminary talks. This is a 6 month to a 1 year talk before we pull the trigger and get going, because there's a lot of planning and a lot of moving parts. Because we'd be bringing in partners, how do we profit share? Is it a timeline thing? Is it a buy-in constant? Is it a equity thing that builds up over time? So there's a lot of different things to consider. And talking with someone else, he's kind of got me in with a group of entrepreneurs that are all throwing around that idea in the first place, that are looking for someone else to take on the group part so that they can each be the leg part. So kind of the head of the octopus, and they can each be their leg and then just focus on their stuff. So somebody else can do the ultimate marketing and the ultimate be like, Yeah. So
that'll be interesting.
Anyway, I want to pick your brain a bit on that, because I've got, there's basically 3 legs or 3 tiers that all have to match in order for this to stand. And I can't get all 3 even in my notebook that I'm writing. I'm like, this is great. This is not good. And this is great. But if I can get this good, so then I focus on that. And that seems really, really good. The partnership part works, but then it doesn't work for the group part. And I'm like, okay, so there's got to be a way to balance and it work fairly and equitably for everyone involved. I'm not looking to get rich. I'm just looking to be a part of something that's bigger than me. I think, I think
we'll see what we can do.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited. Oh, I know we're about out of time. I can see that we're about out of time.
But we will be back next week, God willing, and we don't get sick again. But yeah.
Sounds good.
I will see you next week.
Okay. Right. Thanks.
Later.
Bye.